If you have a third gen 4Runner, then chances are you have a similar problem to what I've had, and that is my center console armrest is getting pretty beat up. After 23 years of wear, all the leather is starting to flake up, wear out. It's had years of sun damage to it, and it's lived its life. So we are going to try to replace it here. Never tried this before, but I figured it can't be that hard to kind of work around, figure out. So I'm going to show you my process. Maybe you can learn a few things from it, probably do a lot better job than myself. But we're going to show you how I'm doing it, and we'll see how the end result turns out. So this is our center console armrest. I got a little anxious to start my project, so we're not going to get to see all the steps in this, but it's also not that difficult to figure out. So I went ahead and I had removed the cover already to this. Actually, let's go back a step, because obviously I had to take it out of the truck to begin with. Um, I had to take the inside out of it too, but it's not that hard to remove. It's literally a couple screws on the inside when you're in the truck, um, and then this piece obviously fits on top of this. Just to kind of show you here, um, there's a couple screws that come out. What are there? 8, I believe. So these guys come out, these couple come out, and then there's a couple top ones, right? So they're real tiny little screws, so you're going to have to use a really small Phillips head to pull those out. And then that just comes out. You're left with this. So you've got a couple staples that are in the edges here that hold this on both sides and the back side. I just use my pair of trusty needle noses here, kind of pulled on those, yanked them out. Um, Once I loosened that, I had to cut the ends of the leather a little bit. The stitches are pretty tight. So then I just peeled it off. And this isn't going to be original just because I've already taken a whole nother step, which I missed to capture. Um, but that's pulled off. You're left with this kind of spongy material. It's actually kind of hard, but you're left with that piece. Once you pull the leather off of it, it's going to be a little glued on there, but it's not too difficult to just kind of work free. As you can see, a little better look at my armrest there. It's pretty chewed up and gross. Um, anyway, so that's off. So how I did mine, or how I'm starting this so far, is I ordered some seats from Caltrend, because my leather seats were also falling apart, and I didn't feel like going through the whole process of refinishing all the leather. So I ordered some seats. These are actually pieces of the seats. Um, they're like a neoprene cover, um, just have some Velcro at the bottom that hold the seat onto it. Um, I've already pulled. This was from actually my driver's side. What happened was I ordered a set from Caltrend when they sent them to me. I'm not sure why they did this, but they made a couple punctures in the side. Now I do have an adjustment on my seat, um, but it's only needed for like this one. I don't know why it had a second one, but they were super cool. I sent them an email, just explained like, hey, it's got this other little punch in it. I'd rather not have an extra punch just in case it gets caught on anything, gets worn out. Um, and they sent me a whole nother driver's side seat, so I was left with a spare one. So this is the material that was in the center of my driver. Well, it's on the centers of all my seats. Kind of old school looking saddle type material, but I thought this would be cool to cover my armrest with because it matches my seats that way. So that's my attempt, trying to cover this guy with this material. Um, Now, I've already made a little bit of an attempt to do this. Let me go back though one more time here. Remember how I told you I skipped a step? I have this black material on here. I wanted to add a little extra cushion to the top of the armrest. So what I did was, with all that extra material over here that I got, I used this guy to trace out. I cut an extra piece of neoprene to just add some extra cushioning, trimmed it down, and then just used an adhesive, uh, put a good layer of that on, um, and now I've got that glued down first before I put this on here. Like I said, um, I did attempt to put this down already on here once. Um, so I had this all wrapped up like this, tight. Um, I actually have some staples that I stapled into the plastic to hold it on tight. Now, the problem that we get into is when this wraps around and you get these corners, and you can do kind of a fancy tuck, to make them look clean, but you get so much extra material in here just because this has this extra little bit of foam in between the two sides that it really thickens up the corners. When you go to put that piece back in, it will not fit. There's just not enough room to get all the plastic holes to line up and to be able to screw it down. So I've been going back and forth trying to figure out exactly what I could do to cut down on the amount of space that's on the inside. I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to kind of get this to fit as tight as I can, um, figure out exactly what parts, once you go to wrap this, are going to be in the way, and then try to separate the material from the foam in here. So all I'm using to wrap the corners tight are just this thinnest layer of material, and then staple it down, maybe use an adhesive combo to help do that. So I think what I'll do is I'll get a couple staples, pull this down, I'll staple the sides, um, trace everything out with a pen or pencil or something, just so I get a good mark of how much material I'm going to have to remove from around here, and then see if I can get our piece to go back inside and give myself enough room to do that. So I'm going to have to put the camera down to do all this, but I'll do it and we'll come back. We'll see what we end up with. So what I've done so far was I trimmed down this piece a little bit, just to try to get rid of as much excess material that I have. But what I think I'm going to do is just try to remove what all folds. I'm going to leave the extra cushion on this piece that folds down, kind of the same with the piece that folds up here, and then just try to get rid of all the excess here. So I just kind of bent everything over to get an idea of what material is going to have to be folded and tightened down. And it leaves me with, like, you can see I made some pen marks here, leaves me with an area about like this. So I feel like if I just kind of cut all this out of all the corners, then should leave me with enough room that I can make that plastic insert fit in there again. But we'll go try it, see where we are at the next stage of fitment. So I end up stapling this down on both ends just to kind of hold it in place so I could fold everything over, make it a little easier to get my measurements. So, I kind of pushed everything down, used the pen, kind of drew the parts of the material here where you could see what would kind of overlap, and then I just slowly started kind of peeling that back in this area. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to trim all of this piece off, then fold everything together, staple it, do a test fitting, make sure that that's going to fit. If it doesn't, then I assume if I just figure out how much overhangs this way, I could probably cut off more of that foam kind of down that side, on this side as well. We'll see from there. I'm going to cut all this off, put it back together, see where we are. All right, we're at day 2 of trying to cover our center console lid. I had a little problem with stapling this down. Unfortunately, I did not have the right size staples. They are too long, and they're having problems getting through some of the plastic in places. Now, I know that there's an actual, I think it's an upholstery stapler you can buy that's actually made for doing stuff like this. I don't want to spend a bunch of money on this project, so I am not purchasing one of those. I just figured I'd use my regular heavy duty stapler at home. Something I'd have around the house would work to hold this together. Fortunately, what I have is not really working like I thought it would, so I had to pivot a little bit, had to make a trip to Home Depot, see what else I could figure out. So what I came up with is I bought some different staples, um, 1/4 inch. They're a heavy duty one. Hopefully this kind of penetrates the plastic, holds everything together. And additionally, I purchased a little thing of super glue. Hopefully I can use that underneath some of the edges to hold that down so it doesn't start peeling out. Now I did the plastic insert that goes on the inside there. I did test fit that. That clears no problem. And I think I mentioned, I don't remember if I showed you, I was talking about how there's that foam layer on the inside of this, and I was afraid that by the time I doubled over everything, there wouldn't be enough room for that to fit in. So I just went ahead and I trimmed everything out along the inside edge. Once I take the old staples out, you'll be able to see kind of where I trimmed all that out. So now I got plenty of room. It's just things aren't holding quite as well or as tight. You can kind of see here where it kind of ripped through the edge. I had a staple down here and it just kind of worked itself free and popped out. So I'm going to try this other staple, see if that makes a difference. If not, then back to the drawing board, I guess. So I'm going to pop out all these old ones. As you can see, they're pretty long. But, probably not really what I was supposed to be using, because there was a spot here or there where I felt the edge of the staple coming through the padding. So let me just pop these out real quick. We'll try to tighten it down a little better. I'm going to leave these in though on either end, just because I don't want everything coming unraveled and ruining the placement, because I have it really well centered on the other side. Since I've got that striping in the material, that is pretty centered on the other side. So I hate to lose that. So give me just a couple minutes here. I kind of wrapped the edge of this already. This actually worked out pretty well, I think. Those other staples seem to fit okay, and they're sticking. I might throw one extra one in just to kind of hold everything down at the top there. But let's see first. Let's kind of start in the middle and see how well these work. Hopefully I don't have to go back to the drawing board here on ways to attach this, but I'll kind of pull that down, pull it tight. We'll see if we have success. 3, 2, 1. Not quite what I wanted. You can see the staple. I don't know how well you can kind of see that. Kind of bent. Um, yeah, I'm not sure why. It seems to have no problem on the ends, but the sides just don't really want to tie down nearly as well. But I'm going to do it anyway. There, that one worked much better. I don't know if it's just kind of the not having a good angle on things or what, but going to keep trying to work our way down, and hopefully by the end here we got a pretty snug fit. Yeah, all right. I just goofed up this one, and since I'm a perfectionist, that kind of stuff drives me nuts. So I know I'll be OCD if that doesn't lay flat. So let's try one more time. Yep, good. Just keep working our way around. It's going to get weird getting these to tuck in. Kind of like just figuring out a good way to do it that it looks clean and looks like it's purposeful, which I think I did a pretty good job on this end, just wrapping them. I wish I would have gotten it just a little snugger, but you know, when you don't really know what you're doing, oops, you're just trying stuff, you know, I guess you can't expect perfection on the first time around. Nice. That one went in. All right. All right. Well, let's mess with this, see what we can come up with to make this look fairly clean. You have to watch, obviously, where the screws will go in. You got to clear that. I'm assuming it's probably better to try. Let's give ourselves actually. I'm gonna put an extra. I think I'll bring this down along the side, because if not, I just think there's going to be too much material that's going to get in the way of where those screws go. So let's put an extra. Let's tack this down just a little better. Pull that a little tighter. Get it nice and clean, best we can. Oh, you can see here where I removed the foam. Maybe hand's not in the way. So it's pretty thin material now. That one in there. Didn't get it as low as I wanted, but those plastic inserts where everything screws down into it are kind of in the way. I only have so much room to work with here, so. All right, that's in there. Now let's figure out how to fold these. I think originally how I had it. It's probably going to have to be a little, well, it is going to have to be different than the back, because obviously you don't have might have to throw an extra staple in here just to kind of pin this down so it doesn't slide on me as much. Makes a little cleaner edge. So maybe, all right, we'll fold that down. We'll put an extra staple in there and try to tack the corner. Well, maybe. There's not a lot of room to work in here. It's pretty snug. Plus, I've already got one staple that's pretty close to the edge, so. Didn't go in super swell, but it's a real weird angle. If I do that, that looks pretty good. You don't really notice a seam. So that's good. I'll just pull this down as tight as I can. Staple it at the very end and hopefully try to avoid any other staples. Oh, come on, dude. Did not work so well. I don't know if I was on, might have been on another staple, but we'll try again. Nope. Dang. There's just some parts of this that don't really want to. Try a different angle. Yeah, it's not super tight, but it's holding. And I'll just try kind of do the same with the other side. So that's not, you don't really notice. There's a little bulge, but you know, this truck's going to get dirty at some point. So, you know, I guess I can't really complain about it being perfect. There, that one seemed to go in pretty well. So, all right. So we got everything tacked in there. I think about as well as I'm going to. I could probably try to do a little bit more, but I don't know how crazy I need to go with staples now. Just kind of, like I said, we'll put some super glue on the inside edges. Try not to get it all over myself and mess with that. Ah, I missed one staple. Remember what I told you about being a perfectionist? Well, it's going to bug me knowing that that's not right. So we'll just try to fix it. And this spot, man. I mean, if you had the proper tools, I'm sure things would be way easier, but I only wanted to spend $3 on staples. I didn't want to spend a bunch on a pneumatic stapler or whatever it was that I was going to need. So still didn't go in. All right, finally got one to stick. So I think that's in. Maybe not. It's a little loose, but it's about like the other side. I don't think they quite went in completely, but pretty good for the most part, at least for now. But as you can see on the other side, everything's stripes pretty well centered. Looks clean, looks good. I got a little bulge there, but you know, I don't think I'm going to get that out, and I'm not going to take it apart to try to at this point. But I mean, that looks pretty good. Matches the seats now, at least. All right, well, let's glue this down. See what happens. I should probably grab the insert in here just to make sure. I mean, everything fit yesterday when I had things not quite as tight, so it should fit now, but I really hate to glue this thing down and find out that, oh, hey, guess what? Something's not right. So let me go find that piece. I'll be back. All right, we're back. We got the insert here. Let's make sure that this, like I said, we'll test fit this, make sure it works. So this will go in here. Feels like it may be a little snug up at the top. But I think just kind of looking, at least in the back, this seems to lock down pretty snug. It's a little tighter of a fit up here, but I don't know if I'm gonna really, can't make it any skinnier. I'm just gonna try to put those screws in after everything dries. I'll force it, or if, I mean, I guess the worst that happens, I'll go back to the hardware store and try to find those tiny screws that may be a little longer length, see what I can find. I'll glue all this down. We'll hope for the best. We'll come back and put it back together. All right, day 3 of this project. I really wish I could get things done a little quicker, but unfortunately with my schedule, it just doesn't permit. So coming back to finish up. I didn't show last time when we were working on this. After I got everything stapled in here, I went back with some super glue and just kind of got under the edges, got some of these corners, tried to get everything tightened up the best I can, just because I'm sure this material is probably gonna stretch a little bit over time. So I thought maybe that would help hold everything in place. So now we're gonna try to get the plastic insert to fit. I'm really hoping it does. I know it's probably gonna be snug, but we'll test it out and see how things go. I mean, it fits this way. It's just going to be the question of by the time we get these little teeny tiny screws, I don't know how well you can see these guys, back in the holes here, how well that's going to tighten down. It looks like the back end definitely fits a little better than the front, but I don't know. Let's put one in and see if it lines up. I feel like I'm gonna have to maneuver this a little bit more. I don't know. Well, no, that might have actually done it. I'm not gonna go all the way yet. Let's just make sure both sides line up before we get too involved here. Whoop. It's definitely all this extra material up in the corner. It's definitely posing a little bit of a problem to get things tightened down, but I'm gonna try to force it. And I could have probably went back and trimmed everything a little better, but I mean, it's weird figuring out the folds and the bends. Well, definitely some room left to be desired there, but if you maybe by the time we tighten everything else down, we can kind of make make it work. So I'm just going to start from this top end and work my way back down. All right, we're back out to the O2, ready to install that armrest again. It's going to be pretty simple. I didn't go through the process of how I took it apart, but you'll kind of see for when we put it back together how it works. There's not much. It's 2 screws really. Pull that all together. But here's our armrest, cushion back together. It's really just going to be pretty simple. We've got these 2 little guys. I don't know what these little arms are called that are down here, but they're just going to slide in these 2 inserts. I don't know how I'm going to do this one-handed, but then there's 2 screws that go in the bottom. Figure out how I can arrange things here. Lock that in place. You'll see that flips down, just inserts in there. Bring this back for you. You can see how that little plate is there. There's 2 screws that go in there, a little Phillips head. Just throw those in. Where did I put them? Help if you put them in straight. There we go. Cool. Well, there you have it. It's back on. Matches everything else. You know, at the beginning of the video, I told you about the seats I had. These are the Caltrend seats that I bought, seat covers. to match everything. So yeah, looks good. That's it. Easy project. Should have been. Took me longer, but probably won't take you as long. And you hopefully figure out faster, better way. Till next time.